Man, is anybody else still kind of reeling from worship a little bit? I'm like, I keep trying to move on, but I'm like a little emotional. Whenever you get that mic on, awesome. My wife has the other one. I just want to say something before we go any further. First off, this is my wife, Ruth. Deal. She's my favorite person in the world. And we've been together 20 years. Yep. Since we were 12 years old. I was 12. She was 13. And yeah, she's a little older than me. But before we start diving into our testimony, I just was feeling this, as Mark was singing about burning bridges, that we're not going back. It's just, I was just thinking about all the stuff we're getting ready to talk about, and our testimony, and it just hit me in a wave again. See, like how there's many times that I thought my hope was always going to be on the other side of wherever we were at. If I could just get past this storm, and because my hope was destination-based, and our hope is not a destination. In fact, your hope is not heaven. Your hope is a person. And he is your future and your past and your present. So you're not trying to get to Jesus. And that was me. That's been us so many times. And you'll hear our stories as we go tonight. But I just wanted to say before we go any further, if there's any part of you that feels like if I can just get to the other side of this, that's where my hope lies. It's not where your hope lies. Your hope lies right now in the middle of your mess, is present with you. And man, as we were singing, I'm like, I'm never going back. I was like, man, Lord, I don't want to ever love the good of yesterday or want the good of yesterday. I want what you want right now. Right now, for right now. So anyway, that's just what I'm still kind of reeling from worship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to my wife, and we're going to kind of tell you some of our story, and we have to go back a little far so you can have context. But yeah, so do you want to get this rolling while I just try to not cry anymore? I know. Yeah, you might as well. Yeah, let's do the whole box.
Okay, so I am a pastor's kid. I'm a PK kid. I'm one of 5 girls. And I was raised by 2 warriors. My father and my mother are absolutely amazing, and so are all my sisters. And we all serve the Lord in our very different ways. But we all really love the Lord. Man, you got me kind of emotional.
Sorry.
I'm already ready to cry.
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
You haven't even said anything yet.
So Jordan is the talker. I am the listener. I am more the introvert. He's more the extrovert. So being up here for me is a big challenge. I actually had anxiety in front of us. He's like, we're going to talk in front of people. But the Lord is bringing me into the yes season. And opening my mouth. And you're going to hear a little bit about our testimony on how the enemy tried to shut us down and shut me up. And so I'm fighting that back even through my anxiety tonight. Come on. Got my hot man right here. So I was considered kind of the oddball of my sisters. We're all really different. I was the headbanger of the family, the artsy-fartsy girl who kind of... That's awesome. I was the first one to jump into a mosh pit and try to do weird and crazy things.
Yeah, she broke a leg in a mosh pit and then went into another mosh pit with a broken leg and broke the other leg. That's how hardcore my wife was, y'all. Y'all don't even know. And I also thought during this time, I thought I was black for like 4 years straight.
Yeah.
And nobody told me that was not the case. And so a lot of inner healing, and the Lord helped me. And I woke up and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were a weird couple. So we met when Jordan was 12 and I was 13. We met at a TK retreat, which is a pastor's kids retreat in Orlando. I lived in Miami, Florida, and he lived in Lakeland. And we would, Tampa. And so we're going to speed up kind of the process before our marriage. But so we met at a PK retreat. He was the ghetto boy. He would wear all the thug suits. And I was dark typing a girl. And we met and we shook hands. And the Lord told my husband that, this is going to be your wife.
Yep. I shook her hand, and it was literally like, this is your wife. It was one of the first times I felt inaudible, like it was like the Lord was shouting it in my ears. And I actually, at the time, though she was beautiful, was like, I'm 12, so why would you do that now? And it's not that I wasn't attracted at all, of course, but it was, I always tell people this, like, it's nice, like, when you get a word from the Lord, and it's simultaneously attractive. Like when you get a word from the Lord, it doesn't matter what it is. Like when you go to a church and you look around, you're like, oh, I'm so glad this is exactly what I've been looking for. That's how I felt at Rock City. But when you go to a place and you're like, this is not where I want to be, and the Lord's like, this is your word, you're like, see, that makes it way harder. And this is an example of, I'm so glad this was my word.
Yeah, so I fought it that year. I was like, Jesus is my boyfriend. I'm not going to lose any focus. Like, it's just me and God. And so I ignored him the whole year. And he ended up being like buds with my sister. And they tried hooking him up with my little sister, which she had nothing to do with. And then the next year coming around, that whole summer, I was holding a picture that I found in my sister's album of this
Stalker.
Here. And I started praying over this white kid in this picture, and I was like, Lord, who is this albino guy that I can't stop thinking about, So I prayed for him. I mean, this guy was clear.
Real
He
original.
has some color now.
Yeah. Yeah, real original with the white jokes there, thanks.
My tortilla.
Okay.
Well, fast forward. Next year comes around, and we shake hands again, and his mom and dad are there. And I was like, there he is. Okay, let me go over there and say hi while his parents are there, So I go over there and I say, hey, I know you. I've met you last year. You're a friend of my sister. My name's Ruth. And we shake hands, and immediately the Lord, for the first time in my life, spoke clearly and said, this is your husband. So our first conversation was actually about ministry clowns. He started talking about clowning.
Clowning. Okay, hold on.
Guys.
Okay. So I grew up doing the arts, and so I had been trained by Ringling Brothers clowns, and it was miming and puppets and all that stuff. That was my world. And so we started talking about clowning, and that's the thing that started this whole thing. Is Jesus and clowns. I have no idea.
Which is my heart, because everybody that know me, children's ministry, all the weird, fun stuff that steps out is what I love. And so that was our connection. The Lord knew that I needed a weirdo that's just as weird as I am. Yeah. So, we started dating long distance. My dad wasn't cool with it. We would call each other, send emails, write letters, and take the train.
This is back when we had dial-up. I don't know if any of you guys remember dial-up. So, if you wanted to send an email, it was kind of a big deal still. And, and in talking on the phone with long distance, there was still, we were getting charged for that. I know that's wild. For anybody that, for any, Gen Zers, you have no idea. We used to get charged extra money for calling outside of our city. It's just crazy. Yeah, continue.
Wait, where did I leave off? Oh, we started taking the train, and it was really cute. I had this whole idea in my life, oh my gosh, we're taking the train together. We're so romantic. And so as we were dating those long-distance relationship, hardship started to attack me at my young age. And high school was really hard for me. I was bullied, things like that. And I went through just a lot of deaths in my friends and everything. And it kind of like, I didn't know where to go with it.
Like physical deaths. Like she had more physical deaths of friends than anyone I've actually to this day met. It was pretty traumatic for her at the time.
It was pretty like forward. What the enemy was trying to do is really trying to break me down. And so people that I loved either were going through some health issues or death would just meet them, or people that I would start to trust would all of a sudden just switch on me. You know, not the normal, but a lot of people can go through that during high school when all this happens, right? So there was a year where I just couldn't take anymore. I fell into a depression. I got really quiet. My parents were very involved in our lives, so try to ask a lot of questions and try to stay as involved as they can in 5 different, we're all girls, all 5 girls, and we all have different emotions, different characteristics, and my parents tried really hard to kind of keep up with that. But I didn't want to be a failure, so I kind of struggled with the whole religious spirit and trying to be perfect. And I carried that into our marriage. So we had broken up. I broke up with Jordan, and I told him I couldn't function emotionally having a boyfriend. And not only that, because it was long distance, I was kind of jealous of the other girls for having somebody they can cuddle with, in high school and hold their hand and stuff. And so I decided, you know what, we were young, let's just, and we broke up. We broke up for about a year. We reconnected.
Yep. And during that time, like, my parents, they had started an outreach ministry, an outreach church in Tampa. So, like, I'm just, like, full-blown ministry. Like, that's my whole life. And I was devastated when she told me this because I knew the Lord gave me a word. We'll talk about it a few times tonight probably, but about when you get a word and there seems to be a delay. But she, so, like, I knew that she was my wife. Fast forward to 18 years old. The Lord gave me a word that I was going to be married by 20. And I was like, all right, Lord, we got to get this thing trucking. And you need to get this girl's attention, have her stop messing around, and let's get going. And and I knew that life was transitioning for me. I felt a new season was coming for me, and I was moving 18 into 19, and so I call her up. We hadn't talked like in a year and a half or something like that, and I call her and I said, hey, and my parents were also like, hey, son, maybe it's time to start thinking something different, not because they didn't love Ruth, but because it just wasn't looking promising. And I called her and I said, hey, I'm coming to see you. And I was just expecting her just to straight up shut me down. And she was like, okay. And I was like, oh, all right. So like I got in my truck. I went and bought a promise ring, which is like a pre-engagement ring, right? And I got in that truck and I drove to down there. She wanted to meet me at a mall with a friend of hers, which was so dumb. And so like she meets me at the mall with a friend, and we end up going to Rainforest Cafe to really set the mood. You know what I'm saying?
That was your choice. You chose that spot.
You went to a mall. You were like, because she was afraid that I was like gonna just dip or something. But anyway, we get there and we remember this a little bit differently. I'll say my side and then she'll say probably what actually happened. So I said to her, hey girl. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I was like, no, I was a lot more shaky. My voice was shaking because I was nervous because I knew this was like, it wasn't like that. It was manly, okay? And so I said, I was like, listen, I know what the Lord's told me about you, but you have a choice to make, right? And I was like, I said, the Lord, see, here's the deal. The Lord loves me so much that if you say no to me, he's going to provide for me a woman really soon, and I'm going to be really happy.
That's when I stepped in. I was like, no. That's not.
So I was like, so you can either get over your fears and start heading towards a life with me, or you can stay here, marry some dude, and move 2 blocks away from your parents. And I know, and like that was a lot of
straight up. That
was pretty arrogant. I know, but I was feeling myself at the time. I was like, you got this. I'd rehearsed this like so many times in my mind, and she looked at me like kind of like in shock. And then what happened?
And then we slow danced in the parking lot. It was pretty cute. Well, I tell them, okay, let's roll. And And about how many months or a year after, he proposed to me in my favorite spot where I had a friend. It was my favorite spot. Like, I used to be that dorky girl that'd sit in the library lake and watch all the ducks and think, oh, look at me reading my book by the lake. You know, so he proposed to me in that spot.
We got to move this along. So
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we end up getting married like a year later, and we start our life in North Carolina. We're actually South Carolina, in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is 2 minutes from Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's like right on the border. And I was in school, and you started working full time. I'm working part time. We were all on staff at our church together within like the first few months of our, of our walk in Charlotte. But in 2009, we got married in 2008, and in 2009, we had our first bout with a health issue with my wife. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So I was working at OCC, Operation Christmas Child, and I started getting trouble with my stomach. For some reason, there was this like sharp pain, and I was throwing up all the time, couldn't hold food. Like, it was just bad. I would just buckle over the pain. And so after trying to find out what was going on, start passing out through the pain and stuff, and we're a little stubborn when it comes to health things, so it took us a bit to get to the doctor. And then when I got checked, we had found a tumor in my stomach. And so we were looking at...
About the size of like a small potato.
Yeah, and so we were looking at removing that and started our journey with finding out that I had a condition. And I say had because I'm believing that it's going to be done in the name of Jesus. But we started the journey of finding out that I grow random tumors throughout my body. And then we started getting on the road, and we tried to ignore it for a bit.
We took that out. We went into surgery, had that removed. That was pretty tough because this is year one, and that was not real fun. But she came out, and something you were telling me earlier, how even then, like, the performance thing was already hitting you,
Yeah.
even with me.
So after I had surgery, even in the hospital, I was like, okay, I'm a child of God. Like, I can be supernatural. I don't have to be in pain in the flesh. I can believe in the spirit, which you can. But my mentality of it was so off. Like, it was a performance mentality. And so I was trying really hard to show people that I was strong, show people that I can do this. And it wasn't like showing Christ through me. It was more trying to be an example of who I thought Christ is. Like, this perfect thing about, people need to see that God doesn't. I don't know how to explain it. I don't have the...
It's that whole fake it till you make it thing. Yeah. Like there's this the Word of Faith movement did a lot of good things for us, but they also did some things that kind of paralyzed us. And one of those things is that I have to fake it until I make it, which they would say faith it till you make it. And it's one thing to believe God for healing. It's another thing to straight out just lie. That I'm not okay right now, and I need help, and so really faith. There's a difference between unbelief and doubts. Unbelief is a condition. It's a condition you've chosen to live in. Doubt, these are moments that happen, or little seasons that sink into your life, and you have to know to discern. Am I struggling with? Because unbelief is I'm done. I'm done with him. I'm done with you, and I don't believe. That wasn't where she was at. That's not where. I almost got there, but when you're wrestling with these doubts, that's when you need to bare your soul and get real with people and not try to hide behind a mask of religion.
So I was in a place where I was just trying to hold on to anything I knew. I knew that I could go through this. God, you and I got this. And in some ways it helped, but in a lot of ways I put on this mask of not even dealing with what I was going through. But then we started going on the road. Jordan and I, he used to worship, and I would do painting. And
we started traveling full-time, doing the worship and the prophetic thing, and doing a lot of prophetic training and all that stuff. And a lot of good stuff happened. It was we were young, no kids. It's just pack up in a car, me and our drummer, my long-haired drummer, 6'5" surfer guy, and we just all packing. He usually just feed me, bro, just feed me. And we would just travel and lead worship and blow it up, and it was good. There was a lot of good happening that time, And then we moved into Fayetteville, North Carolina,
which we got pregnant with our first one.
right before we moved there. Mm-hmm.
So the doctors had told me that I couldn't get pregnant, and so for a long time, Just really heartbroken.
Can we talk about that? Okay. So this is a really cool word. Like, so the Lord told me before we got married, and I told her, I said, the Lord told me we're going to have a daughter. Her name's going to be Selah. And the Lord told me in our 3rd year. All right. And so I'm in Fayetteville, which is 2.5 hours from Charlotte. She's in Charlotte, North Carolina. October 11th, our anniversary, 3rd year anniversary. She calls me, I'm in staff meeting, she calls me and she's like, my water broke. And I'm like, and I'm like, and it's raining outside and I drive through the rain and I'm like, God, help me make this. And he's like, I told you 3 years. And I was like, I thought we had a 365-day window. I didn't know that you meant like 3 years to the day. And so like I'm like going through the rain. I'm like, I'm like getting there. And then it was like 14 hours worth of labor. And it was like, you know. And I was like all sweating for nothing. But yeah, that was that. And that was the Lord, for, again, just showing us the promise of fulfillment of his word. Because the doctor said that she probably couldn't, it was going to be difficult for her to get pregnant. I was like, Lord, give me a word. So.
Yeah. He kind of mixed me up here when I got pregnant. Oh, we moved into Lakeland.
Fayetteville.
We moved into Fayetteville. Which was awesome. We loved Fayetteville. We created a really awesome family there. We're still friends with all them. Everywhere we've ever moved, we've always left in a way of honor and love and respect for each of the people that we've ever left in all the churches. So it's been pretty awesome there. After moving into Fayetteville, one of the hardest things was in 2013, we had our first miscarriage.
Which was in Lakeland, because we moved to Lakeland in 2012.
Okay, so Fayetteville, we moved.
Yes.
And now we're in Lakeland.
Because there was a church split in Fayetteville. That was hard. We left on good terms, but we had to get out before, because two sides, we couldn't pick a side on that one, and we knew it was wrong. So we moved on, and then we moved to Lakeland, and that's when we started ministering. That we were youth pastor, young adult worship associates. We were like 20 hats. She did children's stuff. And that's where we started our time in Lakeland.
What was also huge was Jordan started doing his music and his albums, and it became like his art, his worship to God, and he started doing his first albums and everything, and I was just really proud of him in that time too, and just seeing his heart in his artistic way. No, I'm gonna get emotional because you're so cute. So within that year, though, we started discovering that though we were encouraging each other and doing things and kind of like pairing each other well, we were becoming almost separate in our ministry. So my ministry was just honing down on family, and his was honing down at the church, and all of a sudden it started to split, and yet we were so for each other the whole time that we thought it was one. So keep that in mind, because it will come up together later on. But in 2013 is when I had my first miscarriage. I was still within that religious spirit of like fake it till you make it. And I didn't know how to deal with it. So when we went to the hospital, Jordan was at work and his phone was dead or something. We couldn't get connection with him. And I was with Selah. And I was sitting in no, that's the first one, love. So I had called him and I said, something's wrong. I need you to get home, and I couldn't get a hold of him. So somehow we got a hold of each other, and it was the worst experience, I have to say, visually, emotionally, that I have ever gone through. I remember Jordan, he was on the phone with me, and he's like, no, speak life. And I was like, we need to name him right now. Like, he needs a name, because I knew that what was happening, and I was like, we need to name him. I cannot allow it to happen without him having a name. And so my best friend had picked me up, take me to the hospital because I was in pain. And Jordan still hadn't known, and we were still trying to reach him. And we finally got to the hospital, and they're doing all the tests, and they won't tell you what's happening. And so I'm being wheeled around. I'm asking all the nurses, like, hey, is my baby okay? Is my baby okay? I have a friend with Selah in the house, and Jordan still hadn't made it yet.
Yeah, and I remember getting there. And your sister came to that one too. She was not too far behind, and I remember like the process of it was like just cold. I don't know. We're not the ones who've gone through a miscarriage or miscarriages. We know that, and I remember the doctor talking about it like he wasn't a person, because they don't know how to do that. You can't believe in abortion and think it's a person. So he's talking to us like it's no big deal, and we're just like devastated.
Well, we had a nurse that came in, and she was smiling through it, and you can see like the tears welling up in her eyes. And I just saw God in that moment. You know, like she had this smile on her face, and she said, well, you know, I'm sorry to tell you, there's nothing you could have done, but you miscarried. And I remember her just looking at her, and I was still trying to fake it till I made it. So my tears started welling up in my eyes, and I remember everything got blurry because I couldn't see, and I was just smiling as I'm crying, just smiling out of my stubbornness with this whole religious spirit that laid over me. It makes me angry, just the thought of how fake I was during that time, that I didn't even give myself like that opportunity to like cry it out for my baby, you know?
To lament.
Yeah, I just wouldn't. I didn't want to, because I was like, people are gonna like, they're not gonna see God if I start crying. They're gonna see anger, and I don't want them to see that because that's not God. You know, like it was so warped. And what was crazy about it was my parents didn't put that on me. I mean, there's some things that when we grow up, our parents learn, and they teach you things, and they learn later that it's wrong, and, you know, hopefully.
Yeah, religion. We had some of that.
Yeah.
We all, like it wasn't, like we don't blame anybody, but it was a thing.
Yeah. And so during that time, I remember coming home, and we had our friends living with us at the time, and I stepped through the door, and I look at our friend Paul, and I remember thinking, like, I don't know how to smile right now. I don't know how to put a face up. And so I just I walked to my room and everything, and it took a while. I would just go into my closet. I just wouldn't let people see me, who I am. And I would go in my closet, and I would just scream and, like, curse. And I wouldn't, like, the fact that I wouldn't even curse, I was like, Ruthie, you know? So I would just start throwing things around and crying, and then I'd close my closet because I didn't want my husband to see that his wife wasn't a perfect 1950s wife, you know, which I did try to be, which tortured me. I tortured myself.
It tortured me, actually, because it wasn't real.
Yeah, but you did get used to it.
We got used to living life the way we were living it, but like there was this thing in me that started around that, not too long before that time, a seed of resentment towards my wife because of fake, you know, and then it eventually turned on to me too, which as we went on, because I was being fake too. And so I was resentful towards my wife, and I was resentful towards myself, because when you're being fake, you start to hate yourself. And you get bitter with others. And I was getting bitter with my wife, and it ain't no good. Do you have other things to say about that, Susan?
Yes. So one small thing, because we were separated in the way our ministry was going, Jordan started worshiping through his worship, like his CDs and everything, and so he was getting lost in that. And then I was home taking care of the kids, so I started to feel resentment towards him because he was honing down on his worship team and his albums.
Yeah, I was thriving out there.
Yeah.
Like everything that we were touching at the church was booming. Our young adults were booming. We were doing albums, all the things that I dreamed of doing. My influence was spreading, especially in the South and Florida.
But his ministry at home, our ministry at home was failing. It started to crumble. I started to feel alone. I started to feel like, okay, he's doing great there, but how about here? Like, I feel like I'm falling apart and trying to hold it together. Come 2014, we have Emma.
Don't do that, guys. Both sexes, men and women. Don't do well in front of everybody and not do it at home. It catches up to you. Trust me. Continue.
Do you want to say something too?
No, continue. You're doing good.
So Emma was born, and the Lord told me, like, this one is going to be your warrior child. You know, they both are, but in a different way. Selah comes in gently, but Emma comes in roaring too. Yes. Both needed. And their pregnancies were very much the same. I mean, very different in the way that there are their personalities. Selah's pregnancy, I was like a Disney princess girl. Oh my God, I'm having a baby.
She was so excited the whole time.
And then with Emma, it was like, this is my child. Oh, Lord. You know, like I was warfaring for her. I was like, we're not going to have another miscarriage. I mean, with both pregnancies, I was speaking life the whole time, but I was like, I mean, Screamo band came out of me during that prayer. I was like,
Selah took
mosh pits in the living room.
a good example is like Selah took 14 hours of labor, and then Emma was 9 minutes of pushing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so like I remember, like it also don't reference your past always for what's happening now. So like we're Emma's coming. We gotta tell this story. Emma's coming, and Ruth's water breaks, and she's like, Jordan, we gotta go, and I'm like, all I have is the last experience where it took 14 hours. So I was like, honey, it's okay. We have time.
I was pissed.
Just like, I was like, let me just go take a quick shower, get my bag. So she's all like, oh God, and she's like, you know, she's freaking out. She's, Jordan, you gotta move. I'm driving the speed limit. And I'm all like, honey, it's okay. We got a long night ahead of us. And and she's like, and we get to the thing, and the nurse takes one look at her. She's like, you're going now. She's like, I told you. And she's like, do I have time for an epidural? The nurse is like, no. She's like, Jordan. And I was like, oh my God. Then it hits me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I mean, he was doing his hair slow. He was like,
Yeah, that's not, okay. No, see now that's, you deserve an Oscar. That was the drama. That was over. So Emma comes.
And so one thing, because I hadn't dealt with everything yet, and we still had the tumor thing going on between Emma's pregnancy, we found out about 2 tumors in my neck. So before I had Emma, we had found out that I had two tumors here.
Yeah, they found 2 tumors in her neck, and but we didn't really know what they were, and they wanted to take care of it after we had the baby. So like it wasn't even like really much of a conversation, just like, hey, you need to take care of these, but had the baby. And then we had Emma. I'm gonna move this along a little bit if that's okay. Yeah. We had Emma, and and so we're like getting ready to go look at doing the tumors again, and we got pregnant again. And so they kind of tell us the same thing, just hold off for a minute. They don't appear to be growing too fast, just hold off for a minute. We'll get to it when we get to it. And and then during that time, it was a really wild time. We had another miscarriage. And right when I was getting ready to record a live album, like the weekend of me recording a live album, Hindsight, which is Wildfire, which a lot of you guys have heard that album, Wildfire. It was the Lord met us there. He met me there. He met my wife there. Hindsight, I shouldn't have done it then. I should have done it later. Serious. You know, there was a lot of money in play, and I didn't know what to do, you know. But, you know, family should always come first, you know. Seriously. You king and priest of your own before you're king and priest of anything else, you know. And so the Lord has used that album. I'm thankful for it. There's grace. A lot of people have been touched by it through that story, through that moment in time that was captured. The Lord has used it. Hindsight, he could have done it later. Okay. So, and at the same time, my cousin passed away. At that same time, I was actually praying over my cousin who was virtually dead while my wife was losing her child. And I couldn't get to her fast enough, you know. I met you at the hospital. We started that process, and that's where my wife, some of you heard the story, she comes out of, when we come home, I step into the bathroom, and I look, and I see her hands up over the top of the shower. And she's singing to the Lord. and I saw the Lord, and the presence of the Lord was in the bathroom, so strong, and I just hit the deck. And I could see my wife as a picture of Christ. I've never seen Jesus like I saw Jesus and my wife that day, because when they pierced his side, blood and water flowed from him. And that's what was happening to my wife post her miscarriage. His blood and water was flowing from her, and I could see her sacrifice. And I was just undone. To this day, I've never seen anything. I've never seen worship. I've never seen worship like that in my life. Because that's a sacrifice. That's a real sacrifice. You know. Whew. So after all that, we're still pretty broken. Are you okay if I pick up here for a minute? We're still pretty broken. I don't realize how broken I am. Yeah, and sorry, we're probably gonna cry a lot. Sorry about this. Yeah, I know it's good, but I'm pretty broken. She's pretty broken, and we were just getting started on the next few years, and I'm gonna try to move this along as fast as I can. So I'm gonna rush a little bit. So you interject me now. We had some bunch of different opportunities on the table. We ended up taking a position in Michigan, and to be honest, I won't go into all that. I get up there, and I'm still pretty jacked up, but I didn't know how jacked up from all this. And then her tumors are really starting to choke her out. They're getting bigger. And we finally get to doctors because we have better insurance. We find these doctors, absolute miracles. They this is what you got going on. You have these ultra rare tumors in your neck, and we have to get them out ASAP.
So I'm going to interject 1 second real fast.
Yeah.
So they weren't just tumors that were growing. I was waking up in the middle of the night with them swelling up to where I couldn't breathe, and there was nights where I would just not be breathing, and Jordan
I
would
would
have to
find my wife blue, and I'd try to get her up, and it was just everything about that season was the worst. And she, because when you lie down, the blood would engorge the tumors, and that's why we didn't know that's why it was happening, but that's what was happening. Anyway, so we're up there, and I go into autopilot. And in ministry, I have a gift to do that, and so I go into autopilot mode, and everything at the church was going actually awesome, and I did not do it with Jesus once. It was all my gift. So I developed 14 worship leaders, moved us into 2 services, recarpeted the whole church, did $250,000 worth of work, changed all the lighting, all the audio, all the visual, without even thinking about it. And I led worship the whole time without Jesus at all, 100% on my gift. And fast forward, Brad McClendon texts me, and because we know Brad pre-Rock City. And he CCs David to a text. David, this is Jordan. Jordan, this is David. Y'all need to get to know each other. Go. And David calls me. We're on the phone. This is in the middle of my time up in Michigan. And we're in the middle of all of her surgery stuff. This is right after this part. She had her first surgery. And they go in, and the doctor takes out the one on the left side. That's where, and it was called a carotid body tumor, ultra rare tumor, had wrapped around her carotid artery, which is the artery that you live off, and he couldn't separate it, and he removed her whole carotid artery, and the tumor went into her thigh, cut out an artery from her thigh, and built a new carotid artery, and he had never done it before, and found out there's not many people that can pull it off like he did. Under the conditions he did, and he said basically he acted like it was no big deal, but people were coming, doctors were swinging by the room just to see her because they couldn't believe that it worked, So that happened, and so I'm reeling through all this. I'm on ministry autopilot. I'm on I'm feeling all these different things. I've fallen into sin. I'm moving into looking at pornography at this point in my life, and which is something that I thought wasn't going to be a thing anymore, but when I got bitter and I felt like I didn't have control, that's the only thing I felt like that would give me control. And I fell back into it. And I'm just a mess. And fast forward, that's I end up meeting David, and that's where our Rock City journey starts. And we will wrap this up as quickly as we can. So we're on the phone with David, and he starts telling me about Rock City. He thinks it's the coolest thing since sliced bread that God's ever made. And I remember being on the phone with him, and he's telling me about Rock City, and I said, hey, man, I love your heart. We're speaking the same language. I feel like I love it. But basically I said, sounds great, bro. A lot of people are talking about what you're talking about. I'm calling BS. And he just laughs about it. And he's like, I'm flying you out here. You got to get out here. And then I fly down by myself without Ruth to Olivia and Oscar's wedding. And that was a turning point for me. And number one, I didn't know you could just show up to people's weddings. And I was like, so David's like, hey, I know, exactly. He's like, hey, bro. Exactly. He's like, we're going to this wedding. We're going to this wedding. And I was like, to the rehearsal dinner. I'm going to take you to the rehearsal dinner. I was like, and I was like, did you tell him? Oh, he's like, no, it's fine. It's good. They're family. And I was like, okay, you don't just show up to a rehearsal dinner without but anyway, show up to rehearsal dinner. So I'm at the rehearsal dinner just hanging out with everybody. I'm like, what's up? And then we do I'm at the wedding. I bawl through the whole wedding because if anybody was at that wedding when they did the family restoration thing, and then I'm meeting Mark and he's telling me his story, and I'm meeting Brian. I'm meeting all these different people, and they're telling me their stories of restoration, and I'm just I'm like, this is what God wants. This is I've never seen. Number one, Rock City has an anointing for familial restoration unlike any other place I've ever seen. And we're another testimony of that. We are. So, do you have something to say?
I do. So while this was going on, I was home and I was getting ready to get the surgery done within the next few days. So he was supposed to fly out day before our surgery was supposed to happen. And
a couple days before, but yeah.
Okay, well, I don't remember that time very much. I just remember thinking, okay, I'm a mom to these two girls who are watching, and I was trying really hard. I'm trying to go really fast. Okay. And so while I'm home, I'm with his parents, and I'm thinking, okay, you got to hold fast. It's going to be okay. And he's calling me, and he's like, I just heard all these people's testimony. It's true. This place is legit.
I don't care. You need to get home, basically.
Well, I was thinking, I was done with church. I was like, I'm ready to find a place that's real. And I've always used the word tribe. I was like, this isn't our tribe. I've never heard anybody say that, right? So Jordan keeps saying tribe. Jordan keeps saying this place is real. These are real.
This is our tribe. This is what we need.
And I'm like, whoa, did you just use the word tribe? And those words are significant to me. I know that they seem small for some, but for me it's significant in the way that I connect myself with the Lord. So we're home, and for 2 years they were telling me to prepare for death. For 2 years we were getting ready. We had the conversation of where I had to tell Jordan, I need you to get remarried.
What are we going to do? All that.
Yeah, I told him it's okay, get remarried. We were having the hard conversations. I was making videos for my kids, for their weddings, for their boyfriends, for their husbands, for everything that I can think of that a mother should be there for her kid. So I would sit in front of the camera on our laptop, and I would just talk to my babies and tell them not to resent the Lord when I was resenting the Lord in the moment.
Yeah. And that's all happening. I fly back, and then we get back and we go meet with the doctors. They're like, listen, this is way worse than we thought. We need to push this surgery to a couple months from now. And so I'm on the phone with David. I'm like, hey, they pushed the surgery. David's like, great, you can come to our Activate conference. And I was like, okay. So we come to the Activate conference that year. This is 2018, if I remember correctly. And so this Activate conference is this marked 3 years for us of our journey with Rock City. And we come to the Activate conference, and dude, first thing Kevin tells me when I get off the stage leading worship, he goes, man, I couldn't wait for you to shut up. And I was like, excuse me, do you know who I am? It's like, no, I mean, people want to have me at their conference. Who are you talking about, man? Yeah. And then he went in. And my first 24 hours, I wanted to punch Kevin in the face as hard as I possibly could. And because he went in, he went to town. And but you know what? He was right. I didn't need to shut up. And he's like, I don't know who broke you, boy, but you're on autopilot, son. He's like, you weren't reading the room, you weren't doing none of that. I don't know what you're doing up there. And I was like, he goes, yeah. He went in and he went in on Ruth and then 24. Then so I wanted to punch him the first night. The next morning, he has me screaming in coffee waves at the top of my lungs during regular business hours. And so, we're going through deliverance. So anyway, at that conference, she sees what I saw here.
Well, when we came in, my mindset was, I need to find a church that my family can be safe. I need a church where I know that when I die, my kids are going to become the warriors I see in them. The moment I step in, I see Vanessa. I still haven't told you how much. The first person I saw was Vanessa, and I saw her with her kids. And I was like, that's what I want. And I saw her up here with her kids. And I saw like this flame over her head, and I saw so many mamas up here, and their kids were running around.
You know how it is. It's wild up here.
It was everything that I could ever wish for my babies. I saw the mothers rising up their children as warrior children. I saw lioness. I saw these husbands that were just covering their families. And the moment I walked in and I see this, I didn't even need to be in this service to see it. I saw it out there as soon as I walked in.
Yeah.
And the Lord is like, your warrior children will grow here. Like this is your tribe.
But she was also planning on herself not being able to make it here.
Which I had been for 2 years planning death over myself for so long that when surgery happened.
Yep. And so let's do second surgery. So we leave here and we're just blasted. We feel like we're supposed to move to Corpus. We knew that season was wrapping up. We had already been talking with our pastors about it. Things were good. Like, they had no issues with us. We were still good with him up there, but he starts wrapping it up. That season in our life, we know that we're like, the Lord's telling us we're moving to Corpus. She goes into her second surgery. They prepare us for a 12-hour surgery with 3 surgeons, 70 people assigned to her case. Yeah. And they were telling us that she may never swallow. There's a good chance she's not going to swallow again, that she'll have to eat out of her feeding tube the rest of her life, that because all the tumors are in her nerves and attached to nerve 10, this is not going to work. These are ultra-rare tumors. Anyway, they cut her open. They go, and in 2.5 hours.
I missed a huge part.
What?
The night before the surgery.
I don't remember.
Like, even talking about it right now, I have so much anxiety right now, guys. I just want to throw up all over this mic. So the night before the surgery, I'm sitting in my kids' room, and every night I sing to my babies. I'm not a singer, but they don't mind it. And I sing specific songs to them every night before they go to bed. And I remember sitting in the room thinking, either tomorrow I won't be in this room, or this is the last time I can sing to them, which was really hard because they said it's either gonna end or you're gonna have to be on tubes. No talking, no eating, just like, it's even hard for me to cry. I barely cry anymore. Like, my tears won't come out of my eyeballs. Come on, just get out. Stuck. And I remember standing there, and I'm looking at my babies, and Mom Emma looks at me, and she goes, "Mommy, you have such a pretty voice." And then Selah looks at me, and she goes, "I'm nervous about your surgery," and I try to sing the best way I can. It's not good. And I'm just, asking God. I told him, don't let this be the last time I sing to them. Like, I know I don't sing great, but don't let this be the last time I sing to them. And I had to just accept all of it. Like, okay, tomorrow we're going in. My parents came. Oh, another thing. My parents didn't come to this one. My dad was having open heart surgery.
Yeah, at the same time.
The same exact time I was having surgery.
So he was having like a triple bypass while in the hospital, while she's in the hospital having this surgery at the same time. And
my mom had had surgery the week before.
Yeah, and everything about that season, I really, honestly, I'm leaving out thousands of details. Honestly, I'm doing this as fast as I can. It's just so much. And but so she is all, so she goes in the surgery. It's supposed to be 12 hours. They come out in 2.5. And I'm like, why are you out here? Seriously, like I was scared to death. Because as soon as they walk out, they shouldn't be out here this fast. I know how long this is supposed to take. And they just like, we don't know what happened, but it fell out. And, we don't know how that happened, but, it just, and he goes, and we found another tumor in there. And that just fell out too. And so we just, the guy who did the last surgery, he goes, man, he goes, that was way easier than the last one. and so basically what ended up happening is that we start the process, the recovery was hard. And to be honest, the recovery is still hard because she has nerve damage and it can cause a lot of pain for her. So to this day. But we were...
but I'm here.
Yeah, she's here. Yeah, I know, exactly. She's here. And, but like that was just the beginning of the journey, man. Like when she came out and everybody's like super excited for me, and I actually start manifesting the most because then it was like, I'm watching her suffer through all that, watching her, and I'm all like, you didn't have to do it that way though. I've laid hands on people and seen tumors disappear. You didn't have to do it that way. So I actually started manifesting even more. I got angry. I was excited my wife was healed, but I actually just started my process of manifesting. I was about to enter into my season of fury with the Lord because he healed her, but she was still suffering and trying to recover, and it wasn't done. We still had a process, even though that is a miracle. But just to let you know, how arrogant is that to say that miracle wasn't enough? And it still wasn't the way I wanted it. And I'm just being honest with you. And so she gets out of the surgery, and I tell the Lord, yeah, oh God, I know. She gets out of the surgery, and and the Lord speaks to me that we need to move to Florida. And I was like, why? You told me we're moving to Corpus. And I'm like, my wife's gonna kill me. And I go in and tell my wife that, hey, the Lord told me. She's like, I know. The Lord told me we're moving to Florida. It's fine. And so we threw our whole life in storage, moved to Florida. And that's where I went to die. And I started traveling right away to try to make money, to provide for my family, just do the ministry thing. And the Lord was like, you are not in a good place. Stop it. And I was like, you're right. And the Lord told me to stop too. And I stopped and got a job at a restaurant. And I just went through a season of just letting go of a lot of anger, and the Lord met me there, and I started letting go of the anger, and everything that I tried to do to get to Corpus didn't work on my own strength. I just tried everything, and then David and I on the phone one day, he's like, we're just going to do it. So we move out here to Corpus, and in my mind, I was moving out everywhere that we've ever gone. We were being brought in to fix a problem. To bring our gifts to the situation and fix the issues and help fix the problems. And then we show up here and David's like, I don't want you to do anything. And that made me manifest so much. And really we show up here, and I can't tell you all the things that this place at Rock City has done for us because they're innumerable. I don't know how to list them all because there are too many. And from just interactions and words and the way people have loved us and the way people loved my wife and the way people have loved my kids and we were just and David told me, he was like, you don't join this place, you get built in. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what it meant to be built into a family. And neither did my wife. And so we just manifested a lot, and I just complained a lot, and I was frustrated a lot.
I was going to say, you manifested a lot, but...
I was like, and so moving into last year, 2020 during COVID, Ruth and I went on a trip to. Fabian gets a word and blesses us with something, and that you need to take your wife out on a date, and you need to take her like out of town and like take her on a real date. And he gives me like a Pentecostal handshake, which is like some money for those of you who don't know. And he had a word from the Lord. It was a setup. We go to Waco. We're going to see the Chip and Joanna Gaines stuff. We're in an Airbnb, and we start talking, and then everything comes out. My addiction to pornography, everything.
So a big part of that was that we have these pictures in our apartment. And yes, I'm have to go there. It has to happen.
Can we?
No, I'm not going to say that part.
No, that's a detail okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
All I was going to say was that there's these pictures that started an argument that he wanted to put up. And I was like, babe, they're all of you. Like, we don't need it up there, And for some reason that really upset me, because it was his ministry. It was something he was proud of, and I got that. But I was like, we don't need that up there. You can put it in an office or something. And that started my trickle of what's going on with this man.
Yeah, they were pictures of like previous successes, like big like ministry events and like thousands of people and stuff like that. Just dumb, really dumb. But like it made me manifest though when she had an issue with it, because I was holding on to a lot. But it started down this trickle down effect in that whole conversation, where all of a sudden the Lord shows up, and I confess that what she knew, but that I've been struggling with pornography bad, and it really came in strong back during when I was angry with the Lord. The more angrier I got with the Lord, like the worse it got, by the way. So like for me, it was bitterness and anger and control. Everybody has different triggers. That was mine. And I confessed this, and I just want to say like what an amazing woman she is. She had to process it. It took time, but the first thing she did was, and I don't want to be too graphic, but she took me and she washed me. From my she washed me from my head to my toe. And I went through a deliverance, like where my wife's washing me, and there's nothing like, this wasn't sensual. It was like a move of God, and it was like the most powerful thing that I can remember. One of the most powerful experiences are with you, by the way. No, seriously, like all my most dramatic encounters with the Lord have been with you, and. So I'm just getting wrecked by that. That's the kind of woman she is, and we've had a process still since then, processing some of that. But I will say this is the first time in my life, and for all my redeemed people, you can be free. You can be free. You can really be free, because like for so long I was just trying not to. I was just trying to abstain. Now I don't abstain. I walk in freedom. And like. And it's so like, that's what this, you can have that, all right? And so that happened, and we've been walking that out this last year, and now we're moving into a new season in our life, and I want to wrap it up with this. Do you have any last thing to say?
I mean, I do, but it would all have to wait for another time.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because I just don't know what to do with time.
Okay.
You're okay?
So during the Waco time, the first few days, the Holy Spirit took over me. Like, I just wanted my husband to be in freedom. But it didn't last very long, because a few days later, he was napping. And I saw him napping, and all of a sudden I got angry. And we're still...
She wanted to, like, punch me while I was asleep.
I did punch you. Took that pillow real fast.
Yeah, she did. That's right.
And so... Yeah, so he was dealing with the pornography, and he was dealing with wanting female attention. And I, like you guys know, like I said earlier, I was dealing with wanting to be that perfect wife, that perfect person. And so I was thinking, what the heck did I do wrong? So all of a sudden I'm cooking, my man's napping, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, like I freaking did the best I could. Like, how could you ever even want to, you know? And anger took over me, and we're still healing from it, honestly. There's been a lot of deliverance, but it's taking time, especially for me. But we're doing it together. Like, this is...
And we had a big moment when you guys were here for that baptism. That was a big marker for us with Kevin Leo as well, and that's been a domino effect into so many things in our life. Like, but like this woman is like the greatest woman like of all time to me. Okay, and the way she's handled me through all that was absolutely incredible with so much grace. So I want to end with this. Do you have anything else you want to say?
For it.
This is the most recent thing that happened literally this week. And this is a word for all of us. And I had an opportunity to do something that I kind of wanted to do. And since we moved here, the reason you haven't seen me a ton is because I've been working, I've been working at a restaurant, so I work like all day. And I don't get home until like 11 o'clock at night. So I have like no life outside the restaurant, quick church services, as much time as I give with my family. That's been all I had. Literally, had no, like I couldn't make more time exist. And so I hadn't done a ton for myself. And I had this opportunity to go do something. And the Lord was like, I had this gut feeling like and other people did too, that you're not supposed to go on this thing and I don't know why. And when that triggered me, that I wasn't supposed to do it, because I was like, I haven't done anything for myself. I deserve this. I've been living my whole life for my wife and my kids. I want to go do something for myself. And I start telling the Lord on my drive, God, I've done so much for my wife. I've done so much for my wife. I deserve to do something. And the Lord tells me, you haven't done much for your wife, son. And I was like, excuse me? Excuse me? Have you not seen the last 4 years, bro? It is how I talk to God, and also to Kevin Leo. And I was like, excuse me? He goes, no, you've done a lot because of your wife. You haven't done a lot for her. And I was just like, dang it. And then as soon as he said it, I started getting smacked, because that's impacted every part of my life. Because I started realizing that I've done a lot because of the Lord and not a lot for him. See, like a sacrifice is a sacrifice when it's for. Laying down your life for your wife is love. Laying down your life because of your wife will create spite, bitterness, resentment, religion, and pharisaical living. So when you lay down your life because of God, you're a Pharisee. When you lay down your life for God, you're a lover. And it's not the same thing. And so that's what Jesus constantly was having to deal with, is that the because of thing creates this pharisaical, works-based, scale-based, if I do this, you do this. When I pray like this, this will happen, you see? So this is something that has touched every area of my life. And he normally shows me, and men, the Lord he will reveal himself through your wife more than anyone else, and through your children. I'm telling you, the most impactful revelations I've ever had have come through my wife and through my children. So there's a major difference than laying down your life for and because. And I just want to read a couple verses. Pulling up my notes here. It says in John 15:13, we know this one really well. It says, greater love has no one than this, than to lay one's life down for his friends. Ephesians 5, and walk in love as Christ has also loved us and given himself up for us as an offering and a sacrifice is good, sweet, and fragrance to the Lord. Jesus laid down his life for you, not because of you. the Father sent his Son, not because of you, but for you. The Trinity, when they got together and made the plans, it was never like, oh, because of Adam, just bombing it. The Lord didn't send Jesus because of the fall. He sent him for us. Hebrews 12, looking unto Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him took up the cross in spite of the shame. You see, it was for something, and it's not a sacrifice until it's for something. It's just death. The wrong kind of death. It's religion. It's the wrong kind of death. And when you do the wrong kind of death, it's suicide. And that's what Judas did. There's a difference between what Judas did and what Jesus did. Judas tried to pay and try to even the scales out. And when you try to even the scales out in religion, you take your own life. You see? But then one man who knew how to lay his life down for something, through that one man, it covered us all. And that's the gospel. So, if you're here tonight, what we want to do, and thank you for bearing with us. I know we took too long on the front end. I knew we were going to do that. If you're here tonight and you've been living your life in relationships with parents, husbands and wives, your father and your mother, and with the Lord, in any way that you've been doing it because of or in spite of or because, and that's where you're at, and you want to shift, can somebody play some keys or something? I don't care, play some music. And you want to shift that perspective, we would love to pray for you. So I'm just going to pray real quick. You can stand up. Dawn, you got some people? Yeah, prayer partners. Can we get in place? Because here's the deal. And if you're a prayer partner who needs prayer, just flip it. It's okay. All right? Because I've needed prayer so much and still do. Okay? This is for all of us. So if you're in a place where you're just like, you know what, like you were hearing us talk tonight, and you were hearing our story, and you heard like some of this perfection stuff. If you're struggling with like the fake perfection type thing, my wife's got the anointing for that. She's walking through it. The Lord's been doing so much work in her, and I'm telling you, she's a different woman. If you're wrestling with this perfection, performance, fake face, hiding behind mask, come have my wife pray with you. If you're like, man, I have been doing things from the whole way. I'm doing things because of God. I'm loving because of I have to. I'm not laying down my life for. I have a warped view of sacrifice, and I feel like I'm doing everything in the flesh, which is just killing you, and not in the right way. It's not the sacrifice it's not a sacrificial thing at all. If that's where you're at, I want you to come to the front. So I'm going to pray, and if that's you, just come on up, and Dawn and the team, we're all going to pray with you. I'll make my way around. If you got the perfection thing, come to my wife, and we're just going to pray with you. And I'm just going to go ahead and pray and release you to get your children. I'm sorry, Melody. I pulled a David. I'm so sorry. And so, Lord, I thank you so much for Rock City. I thank you for the gift that it is to the world. I thank you for the gift that it is to Corpus, and I thank you for the gift that it's been to me personally and to my family. Father, we don't want to be performance-based in any way. We don't want to be this way. We want to lay down our lives for you. God, I'm reminded of that vision from Cherish, when everybody came and offered all their gifts to the Lord, and the Lord wasn't pleased because he goes, I didn't ask for their gifts. I asked for their lives. The Lord wants your life. He wants your life. And it's not going to be good enough to just offer up the fakeness. It's not that he wants your life. He doesn't care about all the gifts and all the things you think you can do. He wants your life. So if you've been here and you've just been giving from the wrong tree, you've just been giving from the wrong place, and you've been doing it because or in spite of the Lord, or if you're wrestling with this in your life, I want you to stand up and come to the front. We're going to pray with you. Make your way this way. One of the prayer partners will pray with you. If you've been struggling with the perfectionist thing, come on up to my wife, and she's going to pray with you. Lord, I love this family. Bless them. Bless Rock City. Bless this new season that we're stepping into. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys are dismissed. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for listening to our story.